Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a beer from Junkyard Brewing Company. We've done several of their beers over the years, though it has been a while since I've done one. I think Midnight Spider was the last one that I did, maybe about a year ago. But the beer today is called For Heaven's Cakes, and it is a flavored sour ale, specifically strawberry angel food cake flavored. This one clocks in at 7%. It's got added strawberry, actual angel food cake, whipped cream, and almonds. Junkyard Brewing Company is based in Moorhead, Minnesota. So label art, as always, they just kind of give a basic picture of what the beer is about. So it's got a strawberry angel food cake. It's in a big old giant can, almost like a big Foster's lager. They're really, really big. So today we're going to be using, I would normally pick my small stem goblet for a sour, but this all-purpose kind of tulip Sam Adams glass will work beautifully for a sour as well. And since the beer is so large, this glass holds a bit more, so that's what I went with today. So without further ado, gonna get this poured right in the glass. Try not to make too big of a mess. All right, I'll slow it down just a tick. Spilled just a touch on the table, but you know, pouring out of a big can like this is a bit tricky. Would have been easier with a bigger glass, but I don't have really tall tulips. All right, so visually, this is a very, very nice looking beer. It's got this kind of pinkish orangish hue to it. Obviously, it has added strawberry, so that certainly is playing its part into adding some really, really nice color. In terms of carbonation, it's quite active. This is mostly very large, fast-moving carbonation that I see rising up. I don't see but the tiniest little stream of superfine, tiny champagne-like bubbles. So it did form a head at the start. That was not due to the beer itself. That was from the aggressiveness of my pour to prevent it from spilling all over my table. And indeed, that head's already gone. Like I said, it's very active in terms of carbonation, typical with a sour, and that's going to happen just like that. And I can tell you, this one does have quite a pronounced aroma. Granted, I'm still about a foot from this glass, but you can really smell the underlying sour, the kind of bready, crusty malt bill. I'm going to get right up on it so I can see if I can pick up the additives as well, but it looks great. Let's get a full sniff. Oh yeah. So you can really detect the strawberry on this on the nose. That's what I'm getting. I'm getting the sour, tart, kind of tang aroma. I'm getting the strawberry, and I'm getting the underlying malt bill, which on this one smells rather yeasty and doughy and bready, a little bit of crust. It smells really, really nice. Visually, it's a very wonderful looking beer. This combination of ingredients I've never had in a sour ale, so I'm looking forward to this one. We're going to jump right in. Oh man, that's a lovely beer. Okay, now I didn't see that it said on the can anywhere that it had added lactose. It does say other natural flavorings. That could be considered a natural flavoring, indeed it is, but it definitely, yes, it's sour, but it's got a slight sweetness to it, and the added ingredients are really coming through and tasting like themselves. So I will have to do some research, but I would suspect that there is lactose in this one. And it's a really nice beer, very well balanced beer flavor-wise. So that's kind of where I want to start, is with the flavor, what I initially got. There's just a nice kick of sour and tart up front, but it's not super intense. It's just there, and then it really quickly pulls back, and it starts to open up into a combination of the underlying malt bill and the additive flavors that they put into this one. So yeah. It's a nice sour, get that tart, that tang up front, but it's not super intense, and then it backs off pretty quickly. Then you really start to first taste that underlying malt bill. In this one, it is indeed very grainy. It's very cereal-like, almost like a granola bar type flavor to the malt bill. It's very, very nice. And that kind of follows into the added ingredients that they put in there coming behind. And it's strawberry first, pretty pronounced, pretty big strawberry flavor you can pick up in this one. And then that follows behind about 5-10 seconds later with the almond starting to open up. And then once kind of everything I could pick out on first sip, I'm not getting the whipped cream, but that's all right. Once those all came into play, they really start to intermingle. And I can say on this one, the strawberry is kind of playing with the angel food cake, which also does come through. It's maybe that's why I'm not picking up the whipped cream, because the flavor of an angel food cake itself does have a lot of similarities to the flavor of whipped cream. So maybe they're just intertwining together. But the strawberry is really binding to that side, and the underlying almond is really binding on my palate to the kind of granola cereal grain-like quality of the underlying malt bill. It's really, really nice. It's very well balanced, and it's certainly refreshing. This is a very good combination of ingredients, and I think it really, really does work in this beer. So there was a lot to process flavor-wise. I'm going to jump back in for a second sip. We'll discuss texture, weight, and we'll talk about the finish as well. But a very, very nice beer. Oh, that's really, really good. So this is a higher ABV by a pretty big margin than your standard run-of-the-mill sour ale. It's 7%, and you can really feel that extra ABV in this one. It's got presence. I would say this is easily a strong, medium-heavy body. You do not often get that in sours. Indeed, I've had imperial sours with higher ABVs than this that don't have this much presence. It's very, very nice, and it's appropriate to the ABV range. In terms of the mouthfeel, this one is very, very silky smooth. When you agitate it around the palate, it really does feel very, very lush, very, very silky indeed. Got a good bit of resistance, you can really feel that, and it does pair well and perfectly in tandem with that big, robust, medium, heavy body. It's very nice texturally and weight-wise. In terms of the finish on this one, it's longer than average, and it really comes down to the added ingredients. It's not lingering, haunting sours at all on the palate. It's the added ingredients and still the underlying pungency from the malt bill. So what you're left with is still bits of that underlying strawberry mixed with the almond, and the kind of angel food cake and whipped cream die down before the end of the finish. And certainly well above average in terms of length, but this isn't like Imperial West Coast IPA. It doesn't have lingering bitters that really coat the palate, but it's definitely longer than your average sour, to be certain. Very, very nice. In terms of the classic sour dryness, yeah, you get that on the end as well. Really, it starts to become noticeable on my palate right around maybe the half a minute after each sip mark is when you start to get a little bit of that drying. On this beer, it's really restricted to the front of the palate. It's not drying out the back, it's drying out the front. And it's a subtle dryness. It's not an astringency to the dryness, it's a subtle dryness. But that's very typical with the sour. So really this one is checking all the boxes. There's no big surprise in here that's throwing me for a loop. But what I think Junkyard did do was take a really nice combination of ingredients and put it into a very well executed sour ale. And it just makes for a great beer drinking experience. I really, really like this one. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, come up my scores. When we come back, we'll get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Junkyard Brewing Company's For Heaven's Cakes, a strawberry angel food cake flavored sour ale. This one is 7% ABV, and it had added strawberries, angel food cake, whipped cream, and almonds. Junkyard Brewing Company is based in Moorhead, Minnesota. So starting with the aroma. The aroma on this beer was quite pronounced. A foot and a half away from it, you could really already smell the intensity of the sour on the nose, as well as the underlying grain quality to it. The strawberry did pop out a pretty good bit, but there wasn't a ton of all of the additives that came through in the aroma, but it did really smell quite nice, and it was certainly well above average in terms of pungency. The aroma gets a 9 out of 10. For the taste. Taste on this was fantastic. This was not one of those astringently sour, astringently tart beers. Had a nice little sharpness on the front, but it was, maybe average range for your average sour. But this one didn't really linger. It just kind of hit, and then it relatively quickly backed away, and then first opened up into the grain bill, which was really, really nice. Very grainy, very cereal, granola-like, and then the additives started to come in. And it took probably a good 15-20 seconds before all the subtleties of the additives mixed with the underlying beer itself. Really, the only thing I could say was I found myself wishing that there were just a little bit more impetus on the angel food cake and whipped cream side. It was there, but you really had to kind of dig into it. The strawberry was very much at the forefront, and the almond really binded with the grain bill, but it was absolutely delicious. The taste gets a 9 out of 10. For the body, much, much weightier and robust than your average sour. I've had some imperial sours in, double digits that weren't as robust as this. Body does get a perfect 10 out of 10. For the mouthfeel, very similar story to the body here. This had a really nice bit of resistance. 7%, that's higher than your average sour, and it really paired well with that weightier body. It was nice and silky, absolutely fantastic mouthfeel. Gets a perfect 10 out of 10. For the finish, so this was certainly longer than your average sour. Really on this one, it wasn't lingering sour intensity that really drove out the length of the finish. It was the underlying real intensity of the malt bill. It was the malt bill driven in tandem specifically with the strawberry that was really, really lingering. The angel food cake and the whipped cream had already moved out of the way, but that really nice granola-like malt bill in tandem with strawberry was still quite present, well above average. The finish gets an 8 out of 10. For the head retention, I had to be aggressive with this one. It did form a little head at the beginning, but that was because I was sloshing it in a narrow glass, and it was very active in terms of carbonation. Got the head right out of the way, as you expect and want to see in a sour. Head retention does get a 10 out of 10. For the appearance on this was lovely. The added strawberry really added this nice bright hue to it. It was this kind of pinkish reddish orange color. Absolutely beautiful. The appearance gets a 10 out of 10. For the balance, overall, I thought the balance on this beer was excellent. Really, I come back to what I mentioned before on the angel food cake and the whipped cream side. I would have liked a little bit more of that. It got drowned out just a little bit. You could find it, but I would have liked a little more intensity from that, especially that this was a strawberry angel food cake flavored sour ale. I would have liked a little more intensity from the angel food cake and help it stick around a little longer. But minor nitpick, I only docked 1 point here. Balance gets a 9 out of 10. Feeling in the intangible, subjectively, I loved it. This was a great beer. Gets a 10 out of 10. Finally, is an example of the style. Only lost a few points in a few categories. Really, I thought this was an exceptionally well done sour ale, and I did give it a perfect 10 out of 10, which brings the total score on Junkyard Brewing Company's For Heaven's Cakes to a 95 out of 100. This is well above average, guys. Junkyard always makes these nice big can offerings for many, many other beers, and I love grabbing them when I find them on Tavour, and having a really big sour that was as delicious as this surely was a treat. If you're a fan of fruited beers, flavored beers, sour beers, this is one absolutely, if you can find it still, well worth keeping on your radar. It was really, really nice. Combination of ingredients I haven't had duplicated in any other beer. I do highly recommend this one. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications, hit the bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.